The Singapore Grand Prix. Welcome back. This was another weekend. Formula One came back. They had a week hiatus. And now we're back to the streets of Singapore. This, I genuinely believe to be one of the best racing weekends I've seen in the last year. Like, better than Monza, and that's it. Because Red Bull have won every single other race. And they have been dominant like hell. So, compared to the two, I think Singapore was way better than Monza. Something unexpected happened. Red Bull came with a shit car. It was horrible. They didn't make it out of Q2. They both got out, Perez and Verstappen. And ironically enough, Verstappen got eliminated by Liam Lawson, the replacement of Daniel Ricciardo, whatever the hell. Now this is kind of ironic because Ricciardo replaced De Vries and now Ricciardo might be replaced by Lawson. What the hell's going on in AlphaTauri? Yuki Tsunoda didn't even make it past the third corner because Sergio Perez decided to just take him out and say, hell, I want to go in front of you. It doesn't matter what it costs. And apparently it cost Yuki's race, which is really unfair. Red Bull were trash. They couldn't find no grip. Verstappen kept complaining that he was like driving on ice. Perez was still behind him as per usual. The safety cars came to ruin their race really because they had a strategy to not pit for the longest time trying to gain some places. Logan Sargent fucked it into the wall, bringing out the safety car, and everyone went into the pits. So after the safety car and after diving down to the pits for new tires, Verstappen was P2 behind Carlos Sainz, followed by George Russell, followed by Perez, followed by Lando Norris, followed by Leclerc. So Russell overtakes Verstappen, Norris overtakes Perez, Hamilton's trying to overtake Perez, but he fails. Verstappen lets Norris through to not uphold him much longer, considering his car was slow as shit. And thus, the Red Bulls slowly started falling down the pack. So Verstappen falls back to P5, P6, Perez behind him, and then they have to go into the pits and they search for a new set of medium tires. He falls down to P12. Alonso comes into the pits, gets a 5-second time penalty for locking up and going over the white line. Then Verstappen is down in P11, slowly climbs up to P6 in the last lap, trying to get closer to Leclerc, and he did get close to Leclerc. Russell in P3 fucked it into the wall, and Verstappen ended up P5. George Russell was seen crying after the race, considering he didn't get any points, DNF, and he was fighting for a P2 finish. Now he got a bit cocky and tried to overtake Lando Norris, and in which he got too close to the wall, clipped it straight into the wall. Carlos Sainz did a master plan for Lando Norris, in which he deliberately slowed down to give Lando Norris DRS to get away from the Mercedes.
Lando 0.8 behind, 0.8 with DRS, Russell no DRS. Yeah, it's on purpose.
And that's how it finished. Carlos, Norris, Hamilton. It was a straight battle between three teams for the win, three different teams, and it was amazing to watch. It was fun, it was exciting. Now, rumor has it that Carlando were almost making out with each other after that P1 and P2 finish. They were over the moon. Russell George started crying, blaming himself when it was nobody else's fault.
No words, to be honest. It's millimetre lapse of concentration. And
he was way too greedy. He could have finished P3 and just taken that for the points for a Mercedes and get them away from the Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. But no, he wanted a P2 finish. And that's what you get. Sucks for you, mate. Liam Lawson finished in the points, which Ricciardo hasn't been able to do in the last 3 races or in the last 2 races before the soundboard accident. And he finished in the points. And I don't want to say this because I like Ricciardo, but I think this is the beginning of the end for Daniel Ricciardo. Maybe he'll just stay in the hospital. He won't be needed back in Suzuka, where he's meant to return. Allegedly. What a good word. This might be the beginning of the end for Ricciardo, because Liam Lawson did an impressive performance. New Zealand boy. I mean, I say boy, I think he's around my age. And he finished in the podium, in the points, with an AlphaTauri, the slowest car in the grid. They're last in the Constructors' Championship, and yet he managed to finish in the points, considering Yuki Tsunoda hasn't even started the last 2 races. I feel for Yuki. Yuki is very sad. This man has, in the last 2 races in Monza and in Singapore, has had to not even start the race. His car failed in Monza, and now Sergio Perez, I just want to talk about a guy who I think does not deserve a seat in a Formula One team. Lance Stroll, if you didn't see in qualifying, he spun out in the last corner and decided to go hog the wall.
Part of the curb. Big crash on board!
And because of it, he wasn't able to even start in the race. So we got 19 drivers. Lance Stroll is costing Aston Martin a lot of points. Fernando Alonso is carrying Spain without the S. And Lance Stroll on his back. The whole team is on his back. And now if it wasn't for Carlos Sainz, he would have the whole nation of Spain. But now it's a bit divided because Carlos Sainz is winning. And knowing Spanish people the way I do, they're going to be now rooting for Carlos Sainz because he's at least finishing in the podiums and now winning a race. Kind of like he was about to in Monza if he didn't fuck it up and lock up in the corner where Verstappen overtook him. Anyway, I have to also mention Fernando Alonso is a two-time world champion, so obviously he's a lot smarter and better at extracting the power of the car. But Lance Stroll has been consistently underperforming. But then again, we have to remember that Lance only has a seat because Daddy bought the team, because no one else would have ever given him a seat. He would have been like Nikita Mazepin. That's what it would have been like. He would have gotten a seat in Haas or in Williams and then got rid of kind of like the king himself, Latifi. I don't even know where I was going with this. To sum up the video, Red Bull fucked it, and then the safety car fucked them twice. Ferrari were dominant. Carlando almost made out. Russell George fucked it into the wall. Lando Norris was almost crying. George Russell was crying. And this was by far the most exciting race of the season. And next week we're going to Suzuka back to reality. And you know what does annoy me too? I think Max Verstappen might win the championship. It's already his. But mathematically speaking, he might win the championship, but in Qatar. And I could go to the race in Qatar, but I didn't buy a fucking ticket.